Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind podcast. This week's show, we're going to recap Fight to Win 152. We are also going to preview the Third Coast Grappling, the women's Kumite, the Kumite 7, and we're going to preview Fight to Win 153. We're also going to preview Polaris squads. Also on the show, we're going to talk a little about the upcoming matchup between Keith Krikorian and Emil Fischer on Zapatero, and a bunch of other stuff and some other events that happened this weekend that we'll kind of touch on briefly. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, just my co-host.
Emil.
Man, I struggled to get the intro on the rails there.
No, man, you got it.
So, where do you want to start off with news? We'll start with news first. I'll move into all the recaps and all the previews. I think we start with the big news, which was ADCC trials. It's getting pushed.
Yeah, I think we all saw that coming. And they said basically it comes down to visa issues. It's not even like anything else. They just can't
it's travel and visa issues. Basically, yep. Mo talked about needing. He goes, look, there's not. He said just one U.S. ref that I would trust. ADCC rules are notoriously very, very complicated, and they have the guys that know those rules and have done those rules, and they don't want just random guys in on those trials doing the rules. They want to fly the correct ADCC refs in, and they can't.
I was about to say, because I can't really off the top of my head think of huge ref controversy from ADCC. Usually those guys are top of the line.
They know the ADCC rules.
Right.
And again, Mo's been doing some great stuff recently on the ADCC Instagram page, doing Q&As and talking about what you should be doing as a grappler. He did another one, I think, earlier this week. And he talked about a lot of the intricacies of the rules and why certain things are how they are, and why this was not point scoring, what guys should have done here on takedowns, turtling on a takedown and then being able to pull guard after you turtle for a certain amount of time. It does not count as a takedown in ADCC rules, and it's all stuff that scores pretty differently than most other Jiu-Jitsu tournaments.
Right.
And so I can understand wanting the refs in there that know those inherently, especially for the level the ADCC is at.
Right, yeah, you don't want to mess up. And as I said before, the refs are top-notch.
You wouldn't bring a Little League referee into the World Series, which is kind of the equivalent of
what is holding us up is actual problems with getting people around where they need to be. So there's no way around it. Yeah. Well, it's coronavirus, but it's visa specific.
No one wants to come here,
right?
Because we haven't got our shit together,
right? So it's going to be delayed.
Asia trials got delayed as well.
Yeah,
it's not just us.
They haven't announced what's going to happen to the main tournament, but it's probably going to get impacted by this, is my guess.
There are rumors that it's going to get pushed as well.
I mean, you can just look at the timing. It by necessity has to be.
And also, Mo talked about, he goes, I don't want to just make it invite only, because it's not the whole point of ADCC, but one of the huge things for ADCC is it lets unknown grapplers make a name for themselves. That's one of the huge.
Not just unknown grapplers. I mean, there are big people that have to compete in. It's just that's how big. Hanger had to do it.
Yeah.
Mason Fowler had to do it, and he whooped ass.
But there's a bunch of guys that we know are on the level, but ADCC, on the cusp level, they punch up at ADCC.
Krellinston,
yes.
All of these guys, those are all really amazing competitors. They had to prove themselves in the tournament. That's just how popular. It's our biggest grappling event, period.
And so I appreciate that Mo was we're not just going to make it invite only. We may have to push the event, because if we can't run trials, trials are integral to the way the ADCC run.
Integral.
Yeah, integral to the way the ADCC runs, and so we need those. So if trials gets pushed, it's not going away.
Right.
I'm just, it'll be when it is, and so hopefully vaccine companies get on their shit, and we're getting there. I'm optimistic. So that is in unhappy news, but again, it'll happen when it happens. I'm gonna fly out to all of them because I love ADCC, and it's awesome. Let's see what else I got for news. The IBJJF Austin Open happened. Some fun matches there. We're not going to cover it because we don't really cover opens, but there were some really fun matchups this weekend that happened on there. If you're curious, a bunch of it's on Flow. Sean O'Malley at Grappling Industries this weekend got heel hooked by Deagle twice. There's a footage up there, and basically, it's interesting. Grappling Industries is also running some events. Mackenzie Dern hit a pretty nifty armbar in the UFC from half guard, or from the top of a deep half quarter guard setup.
Yeah.
That I thought was really interesting. You almost never see an armbar finish from that position, so I thought it kind of merited discussion, because we talk about technique a lot on this show, and I thought it was a very interesting armbar, because I don't I don't remember the last time I've ever seen an armbar hit from like the top of that like quarter guard position. Offhand to you?
No, absolutely not. And I mean, like, it's just wild that she can do that in the UFC, you know?
Yeah. She stepped over for she made a really cool step over, really cool adjustments. She had a really nice positioning with her low side arm, able to get the leverage on it. Really cool sub. Also looked really good. You know, she's looked really good her last couple fights, but it seemed like the weight cut didn't kill her. She looks good after the baby. She's kicking ass. That's awesome. Also in UFC news, Kobe Covington. So I didn't look into this too much because it's not going to happen.
Because he's a moron.
Not going to care.
Yeah.
Kobe Covington basically put up, I think it was $100,000 that his BJJ coach could beat any jiu-jitsu guy in the world. I looked up his BJJ coach, Daniel Valverde. Very, very good competitor from like the early 90s, up to like mid 2000s. And hasn't competed a ton since then. And then Gordon Ryan was like, I'll put up $100,000 for that. And Mo Jassin was like, I'll put up, was it
250?
250 for that. Tom DeBlas was like, I'll put up $100,000 for that. And I was like, I'll put up $100,000 for that. Like,
yeah.
all battlegrounds. There are 3 people on this world that I wouldn't like throw a ton of money at versus Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
And, he's not that guy, so I'm going to pick Gordon Ryan.
Like, Flo has, like, an article where they put everything together, but, like, Lovato, like, got into the comments and was
really
like,
funny.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I beat this guy 15 years ago and I subbed him, you know, like, just, it's like, dude, okay, there's hyperbole and then there's, like, saying
there's Lovato was like, I've been there and I've actually done that.
Yeah.
Again, I like guys talking about getting grappling matches. Like, again, hopefully it brings grappling to a larger audience. Like, oh, the guys can fight in just grappling. Maybe I'm looking for the kind of silver lining in this. The matchup's not going to happen, but it did happen this weekend after Kobe Covington beat Tyron Woodley via rib injury in the fifth round. Don't watch the fight if you don't have to. I did. Let's see what else. We'll talk about a little bit in the Third Coast grappling segment. Raquel Canuto had a fight this weekend on Invicta, and she is no longer going to be in the bracket for the Third Coast women's event, which kind of sucks. I'm a big fan of watching her. I like watching her in Third Coast and like Kasai. She's always fun to cover, but she got a little banged up in the fight, so she's going to get replaced. We'll talk about the replacement a little later in the show. Let's see what else I got. Sin City submissions happened this weekend, a newer promotion we haven't talked about a ton. Keith Krikorian won his division, the plus 55 division, won $2,500, and PJ Barch won the over 75 pound division, won $2,500. So it's cool to see guys getting paid out. I think the videos are going to come out a little later this week on the YouTube page. You can find some of their stuff on Instagram. I'm always happy to watch guys get paid out. They both got 4 submissions in 4 matches for each of their brackets. So both those guys come back looking good. I'm kind of curious to see what Barch looks like because we haven't seen a ton from him recently since that injury. Yeah.
No, we've seen him actually, I think, twice.
We've seen him twice, but like, it'll be cool to see 4 more matches from Barch. Yeah. Again, we're about to cover Keith every week for the next like 3 or 4 weeks because Keith's on SUG October 4th. He's competing against Emil Fisher this weekend at Zapatero, which is a crazy matchup we'll talk about a little later in the show. But again, I like watching both these guys. They've got a fun style. They've got a very submission-oriented style. So go back and watch those. Other than that, I don't have a ton of other news. I haven't talked about it in probably like 50 shows or so. If you listen to the show, please share the show. That is the best way that we grow our listening audience and we kind of reach more ears. If you have a gym and you think people would be interested in, the happenings of professional grappling from week to week, send it to your Facebook group, send it to your Facebook, share it, Instagram story. Those are the best way, really like the best ways that we end up growing the show. People like, oh yeah, I saw it on Instagram, I saw it on Facebook, your show. And then, I realize you guys cover grappling every week. So we try to be pretty unbiased. If you're a fan of the show, please do share it. It helps us out a ton. So that's my little spiel that I, forget to do every 6 months. Want to move into the recap section?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So under our recap of Fight to Win 152 that took place in Dallas, Texas. This one was headlined by Edwin Najmi versus Michael Lira Jr. And Najmi gets it done with a split decision, becomes the Fight to Win welterweight gi champion. For the life of me, I cannot, I didn't look it up, but I should have. I cannot remember what belt Najmi used to have. Because he became the champion here, and he had a previous belt, and it's killing me.
If you can't remember, I certainly will never remember.
I don't think he competes much below welterweight, so it wouldn't have been the lightweight belt. I don't think it would have been, because Najmi's like, he could maybe make 55, but he's got like big, like, his body is just big on top. So,
Yeah, this was a lot of dueling open guard. Really, really good passing from Liera Jr.
Dude, he hits 2 really nice passes. The first one was like a Toriando.
Yep.
It was like a really long step, like distance Toriando.
Yep.
And he just immediately like cross grips on the pant leg, like folds over and then just runs around Najmi. And I was like, holy shit. Like
The other one was impressive too. I mean, he got through Najmi's spider guard, which is no joke. Like,
yeah.
I
would love so on the spider guard grip. So Najmi has spider guard. One, he has the foot on the bicep. He has the grip on the hand, on the sleeve, and then Liera takes his opposite hand, reaches over, passes the leg through while he's making the pass, and is able to step all the way over into like a pretty decent side control off of that like one position. But it's really rare to see guys with their other hand like reach all the way over and address that hook like that.
Yep. Yeah, the foot that was on the bicep, it was really, really slick. Definitely watch it. Michael goes even at one point for a rolling back attack. Edwin escapes, and then the last 4 minutes and 30 seconds were in 50-50.
That's what I got, 4+ minutes in 50-50.
And they end the match with dueling ankle locks, and they're both doing the last minute grimace where they're just like, super selling these like ankle locks. We've seen a lot of 50-50 last week and the weekend before and this weekend. And we've also seen a bunch of matches end in dueling like belly down ankle locks.
It's kind of the new meta for Fight to Win, because it's the guy that's throwing up the sub attempts. And so guys are realizing, okay, well, I'm going to get at least one sub attempt at the end of the match.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I think Najmi, because Liera looked really good. The passing was definitely on point here. But I think that Najmi's 50-50 battle back and forth here, he just had more of the better ankle locks, and I think that's in my eyes what the judges saw, because I watched the end of the match, and I always like to play.
I couldn't see any like definitive, like there was nothing that it was a complete push to me. So
yeah,
and given the dominant passing that like Liera had in the beginning, if it's a push for submission attempts on the end, then you give it to Liera.
Yeah, I thought that the submissions that I was seeing from Najmi, I play the game, end of the match, end of every match I play, can I pick who I think the judges are going to pick? Like, based on my criteria in my head, like, I think we all do that, but I try to make it like a game. I was like, okay, I think Liera did better positionally, but positionally doesn't really matter unless there are no sub attempts. There were sub attempts on both sides. I thought that Najmi had more. He had like 2 drop-down ankle lock attempts from the open guard that I thought were not like mirrored by Liera. So I gave him like basically 2 additional, not near sub attempts, but like sub entries that Liera didn't put up. They had a lot of dueling stuff, but Najmi had those 2. And then the ankle lock attempt to the end, hand positioning on Najmi I thought was just a little higher and looked like he had his hips more into it. Right. And so it's like really, really close, but Fight to Win doesn't factor in the positional stuff unless there are no sub attempts, and there were sub attempts. So that was sort of my criteria.
Well, I think, yeah, it's not that they shouldn't factor it in if there's none. It's like if there's not, to me, it's like, if there's not a clear winner out of it, and I guess you saw a clear winner, I did not, but this is where the subjectiveness is, particularly of this style of submission attempts, comes into play. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and again, I haven't attended a rules meeting in almost a year, so I'm like, I'm not certain what Seth has talked about in these rules meetings, or like how they've changed. Because Fight to Win is pretty dynamic with how they change their rules. If Seth's seeing something that maybe is not the kind of jiu they're looking for, like what they are looking for in getting guys to fight to win, he will change the rules in order to kind of facilitate exciting, spectator-friendly, and good jiu-jitsu. And so I'm not sure how much he has done that since the last rules meeting I've attended.
So next up we have Rafael Formiga Barbosa defeating Alex Martins via decision.
Becomes the Masters welterweight champion. I think Formiga had the welterweight champion before. I thought he also went up for the 85 belt as well at one point. I think he had the welterweight one for a long time. He lost it, now he has it back again. So it's cool to see Formiga, again with the belt. Fun fighter. And
man, Formiga brought some serious pressure passing over under. Alex playing a lot of open and collar guard. I think the deciding factor here was Formiga slamming twice.
He had 2 like really good slams.
Good slams.
They were like up, good pressure, good sound on the mat. Not like those little like slams. It was he lifted him up and then brought him down.
There was
shoulders
pop
to the mat. It popped to it. I think is a good way to put it. I also like the beginning of the match. Formiga used a knee cut like to open the guard.
Yeah.
Where he just held it there and opened and very like just waited on it and like open and waited for Alex to sort of like have to start to adjust his legs, and then was able to pop open using that knee cut. I don't see a ton of guys do that, but it was really nice to see him, even with like an inferior grip on the outside of the collar in that position, just kind of hold it and use it like, cool, I'm not going to pass with this, but I'm going to use it to open the guard and kind of change so you're not stuck in your closed guard.
Another thing that Formiga did that I really liked was to end the match, he went completely ham with the passing, just doing like insane Toriano passes, which I think is such a better way to punctuate a match than like these like weird tepid ankle locks.
You have a thing, actually we kind of both do, but you're I think more vocal about like not liking mirrored footlock attempts at the end of a match.
Yeah.
We've talked about them not
I think
counting.
just we see him in Fight to Win a lot, and so it was cool to see this happen, and the crowd was like going nuts.
Yeah,
like they were really into it.
I mean, the passing attempt he hit last 20 seconds, something like that.
Yeah.
It was legit. It was like very dynamic. He was in, he was out, he was around, and like at one point I thought he was totally going to get past, but Alex does a beaubeautiful job of kind of sucking him back into closed guard.
Yep.
I was I thought he was past.
It was
there,
exciting, yeah.
And Alex gets back, but I appreciated that ending sequence was a passing sequence as opposed to like I'm gonna drop back for a foot, which I understand. From a tactics perspective, if you're looking for, sub attempts, that's what you need. But I did appreciate that Barbosa, going for the title belt, showed me some passing.
Yep. Next up, we have Gabriel Almeida defeating Romulo Bahal via decision.
Picked this one wrong.
Yeah. Romulo with a just nasty knee cut and standing passing to start the match off. And then, they go back and forth like this. Gabriel holds him off, and they both end up on their feet.
Mm-hmm. One thing I thought was really cool here in the passing sequence, Romulo goes for what I call like a deadlift pass, where he's got both hands on either, I think he had the sleeves, might have had the skirt here, and you lift the other person completely up.
Into like a deep double under.
Yeah, not even like a double under. Just like you're lifting them up, but you're not even like, yeah, you kind of like it is a double under, but it's like you actually lift them off the mat.
Yep.
And then Gabriel does something really good here. He immediately like snakes his legs in to Romulo and like stops the lift. And it wasn't that he was like trying to get back to guard or like knock him over. He was just preventing the lift from going any higher, and then now Romulo's in this weird middle position where he's lifted and Gabriel's locked in and pushing him away, and Romulo has to kind of abandon it. I thought it was a really interesting way to address that, whereas most guys will either like stand up off that or like they'll throw the legs in low, but he threw his legs in. I'm trying to figure out exactly why it caught my eye. There wasn't a whole lot of movement once he had the legs snaked into Romulo's legs. And it was just a very smooth motion where he just locks everything in, and there wasn't a whole lot of like wavering once he had locked his legs in. It was very, very apparent to me. I'm not sure what I saw there, but it was very interesting to me.
So, they both stand up, and there's a lot of pushing kind of like on the feet for a while. Eventually Romulo is in guard, and Gabriel does his own double under passing into a leg weave, and then gets the pass like off of it, and from side control then cuts his knee across into mount. It was insane. It was like,
and then Romulo barely goes like, nope, not doing this, and then gets
reverses.
Gets out. I was really impressed with Romulo's decision to just not get mounted. He was like, I'm getting mounted. I'm just gonna stop this. Just lifts up, does a really good job gripping the inside of the gi, turns it back into a guard position. But I was super impressed. I saw him get this off of like not a failed Tominagi, but what's that throw that you hit with the leg right in the middle, like in the groin, and you throw back? It's not the foot on the hip, which is where the Tominagi gets thrown from overhead, but it's not like a sumagaeshi where you over to the side. It's like an overhead sumagaeshi, but from the groin grip when you pull them under. So that's what he hit on Romulo.
Sumagaeshi, by definition, can't be completely overhead. I think one of the words in sumagaeshi is corner, so it's like an angled throw.
Oh yeah, it's like a corner cut.
It's like it's like a shoulder. You have to roll over your shoulder, I think, for a sumagaeshi. But I'd have to see the move that you're talking about in particular, but. I'm not sure. Yeah,
it led to that. It led to the passing sequence there, and I was really impressed by it because it is not a takedown or like a guard pull variation that I see a whole lot, and to see it work on Romulo was cool. Just not something I see a ton of.
So I think the passing and pretty much mounting seals the deal for
last
Gabriel.
minute he goes for that knee bar.
Yeah,
and that kind of knee bar is like it again. Romulo defends it very well, but between the passing sequence and then at the end going for the sub, I think seals in the match. So
yep. So
We're gonna
next,
see more from Gabriel. Look for him to fight for a title probably in the next couple matches. Should beat Hamala.
next up, we have Jonathan Alves defeating Johnny Tama via decision. The commentary made me laugh here. They were talking about they pulled a main, and they were like talking about Jonathan Alves' coach Guy Mendez, which is just like,
I have not called him that on the show. I think ever. Like I may or might have called him that for the first like 5. I?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure
No.
Austin heard it at one point. I'd have to ask.
No,
Austin.
okay, yeah, I messed it up because Austin came to the house. We recorded that show at like 11:30 at night, because Austin had to deal with like a murder beforehand. It wasn't really a murder. It was like drugged out people on his street beforehand. But I was very tired. Yeah, no.
So yeah, this is you're referring, of course, to Guy Mendez.
Yes, of the Mendez brothers
of
fame.
the Mendez
and
brothers.
AOJ,
Yeah, and
who is
multiple
Jonathan
time
Alves' coach. Sorry for that non sequitur you guys had to sit through there.
Multiple time world champion. Yeah. So Jonathan
CC
Alves,
champion.
of course, from AOJ.
He's only had 10 matches as a black belt.
That's
So crazy to
buck
me.
wild.
Because we've seen him on Spider.
You know what it is?
He was a brown belt on Spider, wasn't he?
Exactly. We saw him.
That's why.
He was.
Okay.
He was one of those brown belt prodigies.
And then he got
basically.
promoted at the podium at Worlds, and then the world was like, cool, I'm out.
Yeah.
Because they had a little bit of a lag, I thought. I swear to God, he did Spider. Was he a black belt versus Shane in the Shane match, or was he
Yes.
a brown belt still?
I'm pretty
He
sure
was
he
a
was a
brand new belt. I think it was
it
his first match
Yep.
as a black belt was the Spider Invitational.
Yeah.
When he collar choked Shane Jermaine Taylor, who at that point was the current world champion.
I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jonathan, amazing, outstanding competitor, and he just puts the pressure on in this match. Like he dictates where this match is going to go.
That initial passing sequence that he hits was just like,
dude.
gets over, he slides, and then
I mean, it's all in the grip, right?
just
So
there.
Jonathan gets the lapel grip that feeds under the far armpit and behind the head for that extra heavy head
it's
control.
just such a strong grip.
Oh, yeah, there's
Tama,
nothing you can do.
And he does a really good job of keeping Tama flat here.
Yep.
Where it's like you see Tama, like, because Tama is notoriously an
with that
explosive
grip,
guy.
you can really like pull them into
I
your
know.
shoulder.
I
You
hate
know,
that grip.
it sucks. Yeah.
As
to be on the
as
other
a guy
side.
on the other side of it, that's one of the most frustrating grips because there's no good way to address it because you can't like reach back. In order to do anything, you have to force a positional change, which is not going to end up in your favor because they still don't even have to let go of that grip.
So this is what I love about this match because Jonathan he's settled in. I mean, it's been like a minute or two.
He's there
of him
for
just hunkering
a
down.
couple of minutes, in that
And
match.
you can see Tama being like, "Fuck it," and he very slowly.
This is why I like
so dope.
This is why I like
I
Tama.
love this.
Tama will be just like,
This is
"All right,
such
fuck, I'm gonna do this."
cool escape because it's Thomas sets this up very slow. It's very deliberate. He grabs Jonathan's lapel, feeds it behind his armpit over the back, and then uses his foot. Johnny Tama uses his own foot on Jonathan's lapel that he's gripping as a leverage point to kick off and stomp out.
I love this.
And create separation and regard.
I used to do something similar like this with the belt because a couple of promotions up until probably like 2017 or 18, they had no rule about putting your foot in the opponent's belt. So you'd put your foot in, you blade your foot in the belt and you'd lift. And there's a very famous Instagram video from probably like 2019 or 18 of a woman's match doing this and lifts the competitor completely up off her and over like almost like a Tomonagi. But I would do this and you can just push them away enough to regard off of it. And it wasn't illegal back then. And then everyone caught on like, all right, you can't be doing this. And so they've made it illegal since then. But this variation with the gi is still totally legal. And so you can use it. And if you need to make a little bit of space like Tama does, just, to get Jonathan off him, he's able to do it. But it's very sneaky.
It's a great escape. I'm gonna have to remember this one. Check it out. It's a very cool technique.
It's also very, very good because you're so strong because your leg is basically underneath them. And so now instead of trying to like frame with your arms and push off on the chest, you can literally kick away. And because you have the grip on the hand, that gi for your opponent functions as an underhook. And you can basically lift them away with your leg from an underhook of the gi.
Right.
As strong as your
With
hand
that
is, you're not going to break that grip off.
stomping motion too, which is so strong.
It's cool, like annoying grip sequences in either direction, and I really appreciated Tama was like, I'm gonna try this.
Yep. Great sequence. Tama regards, but I think the activity from Jonathan seals.
And
the deal for
Jonathan
him.
hit him with like a little bit of a slam at like about 120 left, and I thought it just overall it was a pretty dominant performance from Jonathan Alves, which is kind of what we thought about.
Yep.
You know, just given Alves' propensity for the gi, and Thomas historically, we see him more as a no-gi grappler,
Yep.
and his game kind of is suited more to no-gi. And, you know, Alves is going to shut down what Tama likes to do, which is like, I'm going to move a lot and force you to like play with this game with me, and doesn't want to do that.
Yep.
So, good performance from Alves. I'm happy to see him again. We have not seen him a ton, but it is cool to see him on a couple of fight to wins in the recent past. And so, again, another guy. Look for him to probably be in line for a title pretty soon on Fight to Win.
Next up, we have Nathan Mendelsohn defeating Rafael Long via decision. Isaiah Wright defeats David Garcia via heel hook.
And that was submission of the night for the black belts. Dude, he leg kicks him at the beginning. Sorry, he doesn't leg kick him. It was a very, very nice foot sweep that looks like when you kick someone in the leg and like knock them over with a leg kick, the timing on it was beautiful. But Isaiah Wright trains with Seth Daniels, which makes sense. And Seth Daniels knows 4 things, and one of them is that dope ass
Foot sweep.
He hits it in no-gi too, right at the beginning. And then for the finishing sequence on this heel hook, I love it because
I knew you were going to say that.
Dude, this is my favorite. This is one of my favorite entries. It's that far side leg entry where you're in like the guard or like a knee cup position, and instead of going for the same side leg on the heel hook, you step all the way over for this knee bar, but he actually steps through and turns his hips so he's in the heel hook position.
Yeah, he gets exactly like he steps across as though he's going to go for saddle, but then as Maine said, he switches his hips, gets an outside ashigarami for the outside heel hook.
I love this. It's one of my favorite things to watch because it's just such a big step. It's like a 270-degree step, which you should almost never be making. But he gets it done, and it just, you know, it's just really cool to see. I particularly like, for some reason, this technique, so it's cool to see it get submission of the night. Cool to see it work, and cool to see it comboed off of a very nice ankle sweep. I think the whole match is like less than a minute.
Yeah.
Watch this match. There's 2 cool techniques here, and it's fun to watch.
Next up, we have Rodrigo Lopez defeating Juan Barbosa via decision.
And that was Friday night for the black belts. This was 50-50 ankle lock madness for the entirety of the match.
I will say it was pretty dynamic.
It was both guys, and it was legit. Like, I was like, I don't think he has that, but he definitely has to defend it.
Yeah, there was, submission attempts, sweeps,
both guys playing on
grip
top,
changes.
both guys playing on the bottom.
Yeah, it's actually dynamic 50-50, very entertaining. But of course they end the match with double belly down ankle locks. So
as we're going to see more of.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really fun match. Not a ton to talk about from as far as like technical pieces, other than like it was just enjoying.
So, yeah, it's difficult with a 50-50 battle. There's not discrete movements in that all the time. So
yeah,
but it's dynamic. It's interesting.
Happened. It was actually fun.
Yeah,
and deservedly Friday night for the black belts. Both these guys, definitely willing to work. 50-50 gets stally when one guy is not willing to play the game or like take some risks. Both guys were willing to take risks here and like enter and exit 50-50, and it was a lot of fun.
Next up, onto our brown belt results. We have
one more match in the black belts.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alejandro Sequeira defeats Chris Hutchinson via hold. Thanks.
Emil, I will tell us when it's brown belt time. I do one thing on this show, that is read the results. On to the brown belt results, Emil.
Kamoy Anderson defeats David Altgeld via Kimura. Mark France defeats Caleb Johnson via choke. Joan Cabas defeats Jason Gavena via choke.
And that was Friday night for the brown belts.
Wally Thompson defeats Nader Tanner via knee bar.
And that was submission of the night for the brown belts. Love seeing knee bar finishes.
Tainan Dalpra defeats Kyle Banks via choke.
And dude, he's gonna get black soon. Like they think somebody hinted about, like there was an article or something like that on Flow. It's like, oh, they hinted at black belt. I was like, yeah, of course. Like he is like one of the world's best, if not the world's best brown belt. Like, yeah, I would assume he's very close to black. He's another AOJ guy we've covered for a long time. Monster. Like, watch this match. You're going to be seeing more of him at black belt. I just thought the article was funny. It was like, oh, is he going to get black belt? Like, yeah, probably pretty soon because he's very, very good. On to the purple belt results.
Robert Robinson defeats Gilbert Moore via triangle. Alex Assad defeats Sammy Cork via heel hook. Fran Papasidero defeats Kevin Smith via decision. Talis Pontes defeats Tommy Tano via decision.
That was Friday night for the purple belts.
Sam McCallie defeats Marquise Jefferson via armbar.
And that was submission of the night for the purple belts.
Yeah, we've covered Sam.
A bunch.
Yep.
We covered his promotion and him, and it's cool to see him getting. I thought he was a brown belt. I must have got that wrong. But yeah, he looked good. There's a highlight going around on Instagram of him finishing this armbar. It's a nice transition at the end there. Gets it done.
Jesse Crane defeats Abigail Tedderton via bow and arrow choke. Nicholas Ponce defeats Diego Vasquez via decision. Dylan Hinojasa defeats Luca Ramici via decision.
On to the blue belt results.
Nick Carlucci defeats Chase Main via decision. Jolene Sunga defeats Jordan Sierra via decision. Denzel Freeman defeats Garrett Bennett via decision. John Tao defeats Jonathan Thomas via decision.
And that was submission. That was fight of the night for the blue belts.
Riley Golden defeats Colton Lewis via triangle. Matt Aniter defeats Truett Cole Odom via heel hook.
And that was submission of the night for the blue belts. I love blue belt heel hooks because it's just like, this is the modern world and it will be a thing. On to the judo results.
Gary Andrews defeats Vernon Kirk via 2 ippons.
Yeah, good match. I talked to Vernon a little bit before this match. He kind of clarified some of the rules for Fight to Win Judo. I very much appreciate that. I am happy that it's back on the show. Judo is always fun to cover and always fun to see. On to the kids and teens results.
Helena Crevar defeats Hope Russell via armbar.
She retains the featherweight nogi title, and that was submission of the night for the kids and teens.
Mackenzie Baesi defeats Haley Daniel via decision. No Rascon defeats Xavier Rodella via rear naked choke.
And that was submission of the night for the kids and teens.
Sean Rubchanuk defeats Nathaniel Gordon via split decision. Taylor Ellis defeats Brianna Orange via decision. Chris Ditto defeats Nathan Solonetic via decision. Kevin Ditto defeats Elijah Solonetic via decision. So that's sibling and sibling. That's hilarious.
Yep. Back.
Sunyun Karas defeats Landry Joseph via decision. Amara Sofia Rodriguez defeats Kaylin Fultz via decision. Colby Hernandez defeats Tommy Nicol via split decision.
And that was fight of the night for the kids and teens. So that does it for the recap section of the show. Let's move right into the previews. Where do you want to start? I know where I want to start, Emil.
Let's do it.
Polaris. So Polaris squads. This event takes place on Sunday, September 27th, and will be held in Southampton, England. It features 2 teams, Team UK and Ireland against Team Europe with a couple of super fights. Now, this is a new format for Polaris, and Emil and I spent some time before the show kind of talking about it, how much we wanted to go into the rules.
Why don't we read the competitors, and then we can go into the rules.
Let's do it. You got the competitors in front of you?
Yep.
You're the name guy, Emil.
All right, so for Team UK and Ireland, these are split into 8-man teams into 2 divisions. There's the under 75 kilograms, Tom Halpin, Jed Hugh, Dominic Dillon, and Ash Williams. We see these guys all the time on Polaris, especially Ash Williams.
Really, really staple competitors on the European scene and on the Polaris stage. So they're bringing the same guys we see a lot, and we always like to see that.
So the other 4 competitors are under 95 kilograms for Team UK and Ireland. This is Taylor Pierman, Bradley Hill, Kieran Davern, and the captain, Darren O'Connell.
I always mess up his name, so I'm very happy that you read his name. Keep on the names, and we'll explain more about how the event runs.
So Team Europe, now the 8 competitors from Team Europe. For under 75 kilograms, we have Mateusz Szynski, Tommy Pulkkinen, Camille Wilk, Dinu Bukolet, and then under 95 kilograms, Tarek Hopstock, Santeri Lilius, Marcin Held, and team captain Eduardo Teta Rios.
There's also a 10-minute super fight between Fionn Davies and Magdalena Loska.
That's going to be awesome,
I'm awesome. I'm a huge fan of Davies, and I've not seen a ton from Loska, but I know we've covered her before. I'm blanking on where. It might have been a year. It was definitely a Euro event. It might have been at Euros, but I don't believe it was. I think it was another super fight. It might have been a Grapple Fest event that we covered her on.
So, very unique rule set here. Despite the fact that each team has 4 under 75 and 4 under 95 kilograms, anyone can face anyone at any given time.
Mm-hmm. With the twist that if one of the under 75 kilogram people beats the under 95 kilogram person, it is worth 3 points for that victory.
So we'll explain that in a second. So the rule set basically follows, it's very similar to Quintet in that anytime there's a match, the winner stays on. You can only win by submission. If it's a draw, like neither person gets submission, both people are eliminated.
Right.
And put into the inactive.
They term it as inactive or active. So
Right.
you start off with 8 active competitors. 2 guys go up. 1 person submits. That
You
person
win until
is
you
still
lose.
active.
Or you're losing until you win.
Thank you, Alex Viana, for that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, you're losing until you win, which is like such a cool way to put that.
Yep. So the as Maine alluded, there's a wrinkle to this where
There's a couple wrinkles to
there's a
this.
couple, but the main one being that if any submission typically is worth 1 match point, we'll call it.
Yeah.
And if a smaller competitor defeats someone from the larger weight class, that's worth 3 match points. So
But the cool thing is...
that's a big wrinkle.
Oh, yeah. That's like worth 3. It's basically functionally worth 3.
Right.
3 of your matches.
3
The
victories.
other thing that's funny, or that I like about this, is it's 5-minute matches with a 30-second break between, and it's done in 2 halves, so 2 40-minute halves.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. So
I have like a way I want to do this, and you have probably a better way to do this. Why don't I let
All right.
you talk, and I'll fill in as like I muck this up.
Well, it's all good. So there are maximum 5-minute matches. You know, obviously they can get cut short if there's a submission.
Right.
Doesn't matter. You only get 30 seconds in between. So even if you win, you know, it's a liability. Except the teams can use timeouts. The captains can call timeouts, and the timeouts are 2 minutes. So they can turn that 30-second break into a 2-minute break, which gives.
I think a 2.5-minute break.
I think it's. Maybe it adds 2 minutes.
I think it adds to it. Is the way.
Either
I
way,
understood it.
that extended time can be used to give the competitor some rest. The team can strategize, and another big wrinkle compared to quintet is that the team captain selects who's going on the fly, right? So it's not a preset, and they can adjust depending on who they think is going to be a good matchup, or if they want someone to draw and are willing to eliminate, or if they need someone who's like a pinch hitter.
Yeah.
So
The other cool thing that I like a lot about this is if you have a guy, let's say Team UK has a grappler, and the grappler's won their last 2. That grappler is getting tired. You can pull that guy out and slot a fresh person in.
if you burn a timeout, yeah.
If you burn a timeout, and the grappler you're pulling off that won isn't eliminated. They're
Right.
still in your roster, so they can rest for as long as they need to before they're going back out. So theoretically, you can put a guy in, have him get 2 wins, and then pull him out,
Right.
and then he can be fresh to the end of the event, whereas okay, he's gone.
Look.
You need him at the end of the event. Everyone else has gone through.
Let's say you have like a Craig Jones, right?
Yeah.
You start him off. He gets 2 submission victories.
Cool, let's pull Craig out. We still have Craig in the reserve. Like, we have send the rest of our guys out. And
Exactly.
there's a whole different level of strategy here that Emil and I are going, how do you game this?
I love it. And,
Yeah.
it really, because you still have the urgency that quintet rules gives where it's like you have to submit for your team.
Yes. It's
For
not
your
like me,
team.
I lose this match, cool, I lost this match. It's like, oh man, I lose this match. Like, my team is down a whole guy. Like, now that person is up on their points. Like, our team's not going to win. It makes it interesting and like a really... The way we cover quintet and kind of events that are like quintet format events is we always talk about the wins and the losses kind of mean less from a who is the best grappler perspective, but they're very interesting for like a spectator. Like, they're fun to watch events.
Right. And
so-
now they're in the rules, they're kind of incentivizing these mismatches, right? So
Yeah. The other thing in their rules that I love that they have is they have actual, not monetary, they have actual like points penalties for stalling.
right.
So if you are stalling, I think is it 30 seconds, you get a warning, and then another 30 seconds, your team actually gets a point taken,
Right.
and then another 30 seconds, you give the opponent an advantageous position.
Right.
Which is like, hey, don't stall because we're gonna move you, and it's a 5-minute match. So I wonder how aggressive. That's one of the things that kind of people have pushed back from
They said
quintet.
30 seconds, so
Is they're so aggressive with stalling penalties in quintet. I'm very curious to see if Polaris is going to implement the same like level of aggressiveness with like.
I truly hope
implementing
so
it.
because I love it. And
Yeah.
for the record, all submissions in any IBJJF or ADCC tournament are allowed.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much.
I think all the gi
submissions.
matches that are super fights you can't heel hook, but I'm pretty sure that you can do I mean, you can't slam. You can slam an ADCC. I don't know if Polaris has slams.
I don't know.
I think I always for some reason
I can't remember slams. I'd have to look at
if Polaris has slams. I thought they did have slams, but I don't recall offhand. But ADCC style rules, so they're not doing what Quintet does, which is banning heel hooks, which I think is really interesting. So I'm curious to see if we're going to end up with a lot more like fast subs, or if we're going to see a lot more.
Slamming is illegal from above knee height.
Okay.
You can't lift them above your knees.
So you can lift them up a little bit and give them a jolt,
Yep.
but you can't you can't fight to win them because the mats probably aren't set up for that. Like Seth kind of prides himself on having mats that aren't going to knock guys out, and so he lets slams go like nice and tall.
Mm-hmm.
But Polaris is probably like, we're going to keep guys not getting knocked out.
So very interesting rule set. And then
I'm super excited for this one.
Maine talked about it briefly. I'll just elaborate. The event is going to be run in 2 40-minute halves.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you get 2 timeouts per half, and then the winner, and then after 80 minutes of regulation time, whatever team has the most points wins. So theoretically, because you did the math on this, and I didn't understand the math because I'm not a smart man with math, you can have like not everyone have gone on either team theoretically with how this runs, depending on how things run out.
Yeah. You could also conceivably have, I think, something like 15 matches.
Theoretically. Let's say the first guy beats...
Yeah, 15.
The first guy beats 7 guys. Then your team captain, your last guy beats 7 guys. Theoretically...
8, theoretically.
Right. You could have up to 15, something like that.
Yep.
Close to that matches.
Yep.
So it's at 5-minute matches, if they all run regulation, that will... Yeah, I don't know how
it
it
could be
work.
4:59 with the submission.
I don't know how it works out. But they've kind of built a contingency for it. Whatever team has the most points at the end of 80 minutes is the winner. Super excited for this. I want to talk about it. I love the first time a promotion puts out like a new rule set like this, where it's like, I don't know, because the first event is always like the pure event. It's like no one quite knows how to game it yet. No one quite knows how to like work around the rules, and everyone you get kind of what the promoters intended, which is usually really fun.
I just love this aspect of strategy now in terms of matchups and like
the ability to pull guys
timeouts.
in and out now is super. I'm very, very curious to see how that gets used.
I think this is such a great way to watch jiu-jitsu because
it's on Fight Pass, by the way. If you don't have Fight Pass, this one is worth like.
Yeah,
I've had fight. Dude, I have like way too many streaming services for like fights, jiu-jitsu, and MMA nowadays. Right. But yeah, this is honestly, Polaris is one of the primary reasons I keep Fight Pass. It's definitely worth it for this one. It's worth get a month of Fight Pass for this one. I'm super excited. Do you want to talk about how you think it'll go? I think
it's too chaotic. We
don't usually pick quintet events unless it's like Gordon Ryan, Craig Jones on the same team. You're like, that's not quite fair.
I do know Marcin Held is a motherfucker though.
Dude, in this rule set, like we saw him, I think quintet 1 or 2.
One, I think, just going on
work.
Yeah, going on tear.
And again, he's over 95, so he's one of the bigger guys. But again, guys are going to be gunning for him. So I'm also curious because it's 8 people. So it's like with 5 people, you can theoretically see a guy getting through 3 people and drawing on the 4th person. It's like, okay, one guy's taking out the majority of the team. With 8 people, like, I don't see a scenario in which you have a guy that can get through 5 people in a row.
Yeah.
6 people in a row.
Yeah.
So that is very interesting to me as well, of like, of like how with that many people, how it plays out and how like the teams match up with the weights and with the points and like the stalling points. You have a guy that loses a point, but he beats a guy that is one weight class above him. That's a 1-point match at that point. It's really interesting. There's a bunch of ways that this can go absolutely crazy, and I am down. I'm super happy that Polaris is putting this on. I don't have a whole lot else on Polaris. Do you have anything kind of else you want to talk about for this one?
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Polaris squads looks really good. They put together a really great team. Would have loved to see Freddie on this event too, but he's not on this one. Super excited for this one. So also happening this next weekend is Fight to Win 153. That one's headlined by Gianni Grippo versus Samuel Nagai.
Yeah, we've seen. Of course, Gianni Grippo is a huge name.
Oh yeah.
I feel
top of the world.
I don't have to talk about his accolades.
If you don't know who Gianni Grippo is, he's very, very good.
Yes.
He's been very good for a while. He's always on the cusp of the world stage.
He's like, frequently making pedestals at the majors and
the majors.
actually winning majors too,
Uh-huh.
has taken down finally Paulo Miao.
Yep.
Big.
That was AJP, wasn't it? Was that IBJJF?
I can't remember.
It was a big deal when he finally beat him. Though. It was
yeah,
like, okay,
I think it wasn't AJP. I think you're right.
I think it was AJP. Both those guys, like, dude, the AJP for the lighter weight classes is always fire.
It's so dope, dude.
Yeah, that's 6-minute time.
Just in general, it's fire. Yeah. Sam Nagai, we've seen a bunch lately.
We covered him recently on Subversive 3.
Yep.
He was on team, maybe wrong, Checkmat?
I can't remember which team he was on. I do
he was
know
on the Checkmat team.
He won, I think, like 2 or maybe even 3 matches.
I think they made it to the semis.
Yeah.
He had a really, you put up some notes on him earlier, and he had a really nice ankle lock attempt in 1 or 2 matches that he looked really good. Belly down, like quick belly down ankle locks. We've covered him on earlier fight to wins.
Yep. Had a really nice arm bar for submission of the night. I think on 141 or something like that.
141, 143, I think. Recently, since the quarantine has hit, I think we have covered him a couple times on Fight to Wins.
He's really good, dominant, really man. So this is going to be an interesting matchup because, looking over my notes for Sam Nagai, he's very controlling. Like, he dictates pace a lot.
Yeah.
Now, Johnny's A game is his guard. There's no doubt about that. I mean,
Johnny has a very, very IBJJF heavy style.
Berimbolo, yep.
I assume this is a gi match, but the imaging that's posted on for the announcement picture is Johnny and no-gi.
Interesting.
I'm curious about this.
Either way, when we've seen Johnny and no-gi, he still relied heavily on his guard.
Yeah.
We can probably anticipate that. And so this will be really interesting to see, can Sam Nagai hang with the upper echelon guard, one of the best guards in the world.
I'm curious to see because Sam has historically went for a lot of ankle locks. If Johnny typically kind of plays that open guard, he will play close guard, but much more of a dynamic open guard player.
Yeah,
he's are you going to see Nagai jumping for the ankle locks in the Fight to Win rule set, and you see Johnny playing top, and you see his passing game here?
I'd be curious too. We saw Johnny go heavy passing against what was that former Death Squad guy name?
Former Death Squad guy.
Yeah, the guy who left. There was a little bit of salt. I'm trying to remember his name. Fuck, why can't it? I'm
Cummings?
No, not Cummings. Who's the other guy? He was like,
give me a face or something. Because I'm trying to think who left.
He got knocked out of trials for ADCC. God, what the fuck?
Got knocked out of trials by ADCC?
Oh my god, this is gonna kill me.
I have to. Ethan wasn't Frank.
No,
all those guys are. I'm trying to think of all the guys that are still.
The other guy.
Obviously the other guy. I just don't know. I have no idea who you're talking about. He got knocked. Did he get submitted in trials?
Yeah, or he got defeated. I can't tell you. Here, I'm gonna look this up. But anyway, we saw Johnny Grippo do heavy passing against him
in this match that you remember that I have no memory of.
I'm gonna, I'm pulling up Johnny's BJJ Heroes now so that I can fucking recant this because I never remember anything, but I do remember.
We talked about this last week off air about the stupid memory that Josh and I have for
and Josh have the most insane jujitsu memory,
which is funny because I don't even think I'm that good, and I'll text Josh about hey, who's this guy? It's it's this guy's coach that left in this year. Look at him for this match. This is a match from 2008. Oh yeah, I think it's a quarterfinals match. How do you remember that? Oh, it was Atlanta Open. It's not even a major.
John Calistine.
Okay, that makes sense. The guy that
at Kasai Pro 3, and he lost the decision there.
I remember that match now. Yep, Palestine.
Yep.
You got it, Emil. You got me on that one.
All right. Anyway, so we've seen
Grippo can play that. I think Calistine's also a little smaller though. Calistine's historically a 35er. That was also a no-gi match.
Yep.
If this is a no-gi match, I could definitely see Grippo implementing more of the passing. If it's a gi match,
Sam Nagai does not look like a. I mean, I'm sure he has a very good guard, but the matches that I've seen him, he is passing. He's dictating.
He seems to be want to be on top, want to attack from top there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So a really fun match. And the more we looked at this, the more I was sort of excited about it.
Yeah, it's compelling.
Because Grippo for me is always an X factor. I'm always kind of not sure where Grippo is going to be and how he's going to be because he's so focused. He's been doing some really interesting interviews during COVID. He did an interview with Paula Meow.
Really?
I think it was Paula.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Instagram Live. I listened to it for like, I want to say it's a long interview.
Oh my God,
And they
I would
just
love
talked
to see that.
Dude, watch it. It's really good. And they just talked for like, how they were
Because
training and
those
how it was
guys are
going.
like, those guys meet a lot.
I want to say it was before Meow left Unity. So
Okay.
it would have probably been 2 or 3 months ago.
I mean, they've competed into the teens, like in terms of
Oh
matches.
yeah, a lot, like back and forth. I mean, they're always the top guys in that weight class.
Yeah.
You're gonna run into like Shane, but Shane will be a weight class below sometimes, and like
That's so cool that they're talking like that.
Yeah,
Especially
it was
like
a
the
really
meows.
cool, it was a very cool interview.
Johnny, when we've spoken with him, seems like a very upfront
Yeah.
guy. He's like
Yeah.
very personable. The meows, I haven't seen as much from. So
They don't talk a lot.
yeah,
they're
I
not.
was about to
They're
say.
not very like.
that's an interesting.
Yeah, it was a really
I gotta
interesting
listen to
interview.
that.
I really enjoyed it. Again, I'm promising to watch it again because I watched it while I was doing something. Because I was doing something, but I was like, oh, this is actually really interesting to hear them kind of talk about the training situation, what they're doing, and why. And it was very interesting. Next match on this card is Chelsea Lyons versus Nikki Sullivan. I haven't seen a ton from Sullivan recently. AOJ black belt. I know her most for, I think, submission at the sea and then ADCC trials performances that she's hit. I would assume this is Nogi, but I assume it's Gi, actually. Look for Sullivan to play a really heavy guard here and work off her back. Like, Sullivan is notoriously extremely difficult to pass, very flexible, very long-legged. I can see Chelsea, like, implementing a really heavy passing game here, but Sullivan is just so hard to smash by. I see very few people having success getting around her because of just the way, and like she can put her knees like behind her and like that inverted passing or inverted guard play when she's still like forward facing into you. Should be a really fun matchup between these two. I think this is the co-main and main event. We had to kind of search a little bit before the show to find these matchups so far. So I assume that as soon as you listen to the show, the rest of the card will immediately be out, and there'll be a bunch of other cool matchups. Like, oh, cool, Murillo Santana's taking on Josh Hinger. Like, awesome! I wish I would have known about that. Like, 3 hours before the show finished. But that's all I got for Fight to Win 153. Should be fun. Let's see what else do we got. We have. Let's talk about. Let's talk about Third Coast Grappling, the women's Kumite. This is the first women Kumite they've run. Third Coast Grappling Kumite 7, right, Meow?
Yeah, 7.
Kumite 7. This is awesome. Like, I love that they're paying out the women the same as the men. It's a $10,000 Kumite. We have 8 really great women here. You want to read through the names?
Nathalie Hibero, Jessica Swanson, Nathalie DeJesus, Raquel Canuto, though.
Yeah, Raquel Canuto is out now, and she got replaced. Give me 2 seconds to pull up the name. I just had it. Keep going.
Luisa Montero, Andressa Sintra, Jenna Bishop, and Ana Carolina Vieira, Baby Vieira.
Yeah. Yanni Reyes is replacing Canuto because Canuto had a fight in Invicta that she's a little banged up from, so she's going to get replaced there. I don't think she's, like, injured. I just think that, like, you had a professional MMA fight in a top women's organization. You need a couple days off.
Yep.
This is a tough one to pick. Last time we saw Baby Vieira in like a big professional bracket like this was, I think, black belt CBD.
Yeah, and she whooped a whole lot of ass.
And annoyingly, a lot of these women don't have BJJ Heroes like records on here. They have
Yeah,
pages.
that's something I hope the community gets on top of. Is like,
I don't know, because I don't know who actually puts in those records. I think it's actually BJJ Heroes itself. But I realize whenever we cover like a large women's bracket, how much I rely on BJJ Heroes to like jog my brain of like, okay, that was 2017. Wow, that was far ago. So offhand, I remember last time we covered Baby Vieira. She looked really good at black belt CBD.
And I mean, we've covered her since then because I remember
last time in a professional bracket.
Right, right. We see a lot of these women in Fight to Win, rule sets basically.
Yeah, main event, co-main event. Natalia DeJesus, Jenna Bishop. That's a really, really fun first round matchup. I think they've
crazy
met
first
a
round
bunch.
Yep.
DeJesus is super hard to get around. I can see, like, again, I see a lot of these women, like, we see a lot of these matches are going to happen in the guard. And I see a lot of them going to overtime. Just because these women have super dynamic guards, extremely difficult to pass, and a lot of times there's like add back and forth. I'm very curious to see how the overtimes get picked here, because I think we're going to see a lot of guard work and then a lot of maybe like just 2 points or like decision work here, because I think these matchups are really, really good and be very, very close.
Yeah, I love when tech falls happen. I don't know, particularly from the Montero Swanson and Sintra versus Hibera. Like I don't know what the skill disparities are there. I don't know if we're gonna see tech falls coming out of them. I do think that Anna Carolina is a...
These are all crazy first-round matchups, though. It's like I think any of these matchups could easily be like the finals or the semifinals at like an open or a major.
Yep.
Because all these women are top level, and that's like I really appreciate that Third Coast has went. We've seen like really, really great men's brackets, and then they're gonna finish it off with a really great top-level women's bracket.
Yep.
I want to say that I think Cintra's going to get around Hibero. Cintra's looked really good. we covered her in person at the Third Coast Grappling in December of last year, and she looked really good. Did an interview with her for BJJ Fanatics, I think came out. I feel like Cintra's going to go through. I think Vieira's going to go through Yanni there. So I think we're probably in the semifinals on the right side of the bracket. We'll probably get Cintra versus Vieira. And I'm really curious about that one. I kind of I've seen more from Cintra recently, but Vieira has looked so good in bursts. And but again, it's the IBJJF rule set. Yeah, this is a really, really hard one for me to pick. I'm excited for it. On the other side of the bracket, I can see DeJesus getting through, and I can see Montero getting through Swanson. So I think we're going to get Natalie DeJesus versus Luisa Montero. I'm pretty sure they fought a bunch before, but offhand, I'm not remembering. I feel like DeJesus will get through her, and we'll probably end up with... I can't pick the Baby Vieira versus Anjusta Sintra match. I do not know how that one will play out.
Let's see. Which one are you trying to speculate?
I'm trying to pick all of them.
Okay.
But Luisa Montero and Natalia DeJesus. I'm trying to think of the last time that those two have faced each other, because I think it's been... I want to say it was at a Fight to Win. Or it was... I don't think it was at Euros, but it's offhand, I'm blanking the last time I've seen them compete against each other. I think DeJesus took it, but I think Montero has also taken it before. And it's just killing me because I can't usually...
DeJesus is all over.
Yeah, a lot of matches. All these women are top level, have a lot of matches. And that's why it's kind of hard. That's why, again, I forget how much I rely on BJJ Heroes to keep it all straight. Of they're 1-1 here, they're 2-1, or they're 3-1. It's okay, the last match was in this promotion for this rule set, and it lets me jog my memory to go back and remember it. Without that tool, not as good of an analyst, Emil. Not going to lie.
Yeah, it's tricky. So actually, we saw Natalie DeJesus defeat Anna Carolina Vieira at 143, Fight to Win.
Okay.
And so that could be a potential finals match.
Yeah, very easy. Opposite sides of the bracket. And again, pretty recent. You said 143?
143, yeah.
That was 10 events ago for Fight to Win. That was pretty recent.
Yeah, it was a couple months ago. It was by toe hold, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we get DeJesus versus Anjusta Sintra...
Oh, sorry. No, that was the decision. But
okay.
She was going for a toe hold, yeah.
If we get DeJesus versus Anjusta Sintra, that could be really interesting. I still kind of want to pick DeJesus here. I think she's definitely one of the larger women in the bracket, and I feel like she's going to leverage that very well.
Yep.
I kind of want to pick her to win this, but again, for me, it's a little bit of a toss-up just because all these women are top level.
Yep.
Any kind of thoughts on that?
It's tough. We saw at Fight to Win 115, Natalie DeJesus defeating Jessica Flowers, who's also really good.
Yeah, and bigger
by knee bar. Yeah. So, Natalie.
Those are the matches that I'm thinking about for the Flowers matches, particularly sticks out of my head.
And
really, really big.
Natalie just evidently just attacking legs viciously. Yeah. So, I definitely think
in the gi. She's good control there.
Knee bars, toe holds.
Her toe hold is vicious.
Yep.
And so the combo between the knee bar and the toe hold, I feel will play very well for her, especially if you go to ref's decision.
Yep.
And if you can't get a tech fall, she's going to be incentivized earlier in the matches to maybe go for those because, cool, I'm down 2 points, down 3 points. Yeah, my opponent gets to pick position, but I get shots on really good subs that I have a very high percentage of maybe finishing.
2019 world champion, winning by submission in the finals.
Very good. That's why I picked her.
So yeah, the more I'm looking at my notes, she has a a submission win at Fight to Win 104 over Talita Nogueira. Is that Talita Alencar?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Talita Nogueira is different.
That was a submission, submission of the night choke.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I'm beginning to realize my notes are like a pretty significant.
Yeah. You've been doing this show for 100+ shows now. By the way.
It's a couple years. So.
Yeah. I would hope at this point, like, I hope you have your notes in like a searchable format.
Yeah.
I have all these individual.
Well, your
Word
brain
documents.
is search like, like you can recall this shit. I have to actually look it up, but my notes are gotten to the point where I can actually look it up.
So I'm excited for that. Do you want to make a pick or no?
I mean, looking at this now, I'm 100% going Nathalie DeJesus.
100%. I would not. I'm not going to go that.
I'm going like she's gonna win. She's probably gonna get a submission or two on the way.
Wouldn't surprise me. So on the super fights, we have Gustavo Batista versus Vinicius Trator Ferreira.
Damn.
Right?
Yep. That's gonna be fucking good.
Any thoughts on that one? Batista's look good. Trator's look good.
I mean,
I hate picking against Trator because he like the way he pulls out stuff just always impresses me.
Yeah.
Like Batista is just tough as shit, but I see Trator just doing Trator stuff and just coming in heavy pressure, positional game, and just like making it miserable.
Yep.
I can see it by sub, but I could also see it by like a decision if he's not unable to rack up the points. I'm just a big fan of Trator. I assume this is in the gi, but I don't know. Next we have We have Guillermo Augusto versus Lucas the Hulk Barbosa.
Yeah, this will be really interesting. You know, like
were these guys both in the same bracket a while back? When Hulk got subbed by
was it Cyborg?
No, it wasn't. No. That was Kasai. Didn't get subbed by Kasai. He got subbed with that triangle by
Oh yeah, Felipe Andrew.
Thank you. Yeah, Felipe Andrew.
I can't remember if they were on the same side of the bracket. I'm pretty sure they were in the same bracket though.
Yeah, I think so. I kind of want to lean Hulk just because.
I mean, he's Hulk.
Because he's Hulk.
You know,
like you have a nickname in quotes. Like both guys I picked have nicknames in quotes, which is always for me, it's always telling. Like, the guy with a nickname in quotes, like, usually pretty good. Yeah, Hulk. Hulk's looked really good. I see this being a really good match. I see Hulk coming on, like, super strong initially and just, like, hitting Guillermo at a speed that he's going to force him to run at. And then we've only really seen Hulk get tired in the Cyborg matches. And if you're not Cyborg, I just assume he's going to run at that pace for most of the match and sort of continue to press an advantage for the majority of it. So, should be a super fun card. I think this is the last Kumite. I think they're taking a little bit of a break, and they're going to do some kids events. They're doing a trials event, and then they're going to be back with a big Third Coast. I think in, let me see, October 31st, or I think November 7th, they're going to do the big one. Or, sorry, December. December is the big one. So, super excited for that. Also happening this weekend is the Zapatero Invitational is going to have Keith Krikorian versus Emil Fischer. So
big weight difference there.
Yeah. Fischer is the 205-pound champion for Zapatero, and Krikorian is the 155-pound champion for Zapatero.
Yeah, it's
a big ass weight difference. Like, props to both those guys for taking that match. Yeah, we covered both these guys a ton. Fischer, I think took the title from Joe Baez last year in regulation. I'm very curious to see how this match plays out because Emil is a bottom player primarily. Like he is looking for the leg locks. Krikorian is, again, they're both guys in the submission only scene in the EBI scene and those style rule sets.
I would normally say like Krikorian's leg lock game is through the fucking roof, and like normally I'd be like, yeah, no one's going to leg lock him. But Emil is significantly bigger. Mm-hmm. He likes to really crank on those, like, do really explosive kind of, like, heel hooks, especially. Yeah. And I could see if...
He's also got kind of strange entries, too. Like, he catches guys in weird entries.
He does, but, I mean, Keith is a 10th planet guy. Like, he's used to unorthodox
He's used
stuff.
to the weird entries.
And the other thing, too, is that I think Emil is going to have a big problem doing weird entries against someone who's so much smaller than him, you know, like,
and kind of hip to it. Like Keith, I think guys go to Emil Fischer matches, and I think they're usually kind of surprised initially because Emil has that, like, is a dude that will lay down in front of you in a match, and then he'll like, come on, take mount or side control or whatever you want, and like he's going to invert and push you off. He's just going to make you like. he's going to throw you off your game. And I do not know if he's going to be able to do that with Kokorian. I think Kokorian's a guy that, like, he competes so frequently at the level that he competes at. He's going to be a guy it's hard to throw off his game. But again, that 55-pound plus weight difference.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is, like, if Emil does get to a position where he thinks he can attack, it's going to come on quick and strong. And so I do think, like, if he does get there, Keith is not going to have any time to defend.
Right.
You know, like,
because
it's not going to be like...
going to go real quick.
Yeah, he's going to rip it.
Yeah,
you know?
but Emil's going to have a little bit of the advantage on overall speed, just being the smaller guy, so being able to enter and out.
Keith,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Keith. I don't know, I'm really kind of curious to see how this matchup goes. I historically will pick the bigger guys, but given kind of how both guys play, I'm really interested in this. Should be fun. It's usually free on YouTube, is where Sapatero has their events. It might be on Facebook, but super, you know, I'm excited for this match. We cover both these guys a ton. They're two of, like, the bigger guys in that, like, in the sub-only circuit. Like, Keith was competing this weekend on Sin City Submission Series. 2 weeks from now, this weekend on Sapatero, next weekend on Sug. I think Emil's on that card as well. Let me actually look that up. So I'm amped for it. Let's see. Yeah, Emil Fisher's fighting Hunter Colvin on the card. So it's funny, they're fighting, and then the next week they're both going to Submission Underground, and Keith opens up the main card, and Emil finishes out the prelim card. So super, super interesting matchup. Not a matchup you typically would see, but I love that both guys are game for it. So props to them. Other than that, I don't think I have any other, like, events. Fight to Win next week, Third Coast, Sapatero, Polaris. Oh, I have 4 events next week. It's going to be a big old Monday show, Emil.
That's right.
So what do you got going on this week?
Not a whole lot. Just chilling.
That's good. Yeah, I'd be on call on Saturday. I wasn't on call. I got called in first time in like 5 years. They're like, hey, can you look at this? And I was like, yeah. 7 hours later, my entire Saturday is like gone. So I was like, okay, I got to rush Sunday to get the show together to like be ready to go. Also got a deer this week.
Sweet.
First time in ever for me. Hit a great shot. I put a lot of time and effort into it. And it was delicious.
Sweet.
So,
wait, you already ate it?
I ate part of it that night.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. A year, dude. A year and a half of me, like, honing these skills and being terrible at hunting. Like, finally got a deer. I'm for sure going to, like, process this and eat it that night.
There you go.
So that was fun. What else do I have? I thought I had something else I wanted to know. I wanted, like, for the outro section. We should get together and watch Polaris.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, we very rarely get together to watch cards, but it's a Sunday card, so it's like we can do our Saturday, whatever we're going to do, and then...
I'm free until 4, so I can do that. And
okay.
I do think that, like, this team format is best watched live because, like...
You get nothing spoiled, because, like, highlights are going to come out.
You know highlights, but also, like, the whole point of it is that the rule set builds the narrative through the night. Right.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like what the original EBIs did a bit, where it's like you watch, like, okay, the one guy in the bracket, okay, he's gone through. You've watched him beat the other guys in the bracket as they build up to this. You know, this guy's beat these guys, this guy beat these guys, and they come to this kind of culminated main event. I think, you know, very kind of similar to how Subversive runs these as well. They culminate. Like, I like super fights. I'm a big fan of super fights because super fights prove, like, who the best guy is. But I also like, from an entertainment perspective, like the brackets, because you get to watch the narrative build throughout the night. And I think Quintet, Subversive, and Polaris squads, I think, are 3 like styles of rule set that work so well with that narrative format.
Yep.
Like, brackets are always fun. I love brackets, but like weird team-on-team brackets just add that extra wrench into it that makes it like specifically hard to pick. So it keeps me like really engaged and active the entire time because I'm playing like the what if game the entire time for how it could go. Because at any point in time, weird shit always happens.
Yep.
Like, there has not been a quintet where it's like, well, that was a weird thing that happened. What was the other one there was another one that happened. It wasn't quintet. What was it? It was like Nick Rodrigo was on it, and it was like, it wasn't Team WEC. It was, I forget what it was. Yeah, we covered it before, but I always like these kind of events. We should definitely watch that live. I don't have a whole lot else. So that does it. We've been training a ton in the basement. I pulled the mats out. I'm finally like getting back into training like 3 or 4 days a week.
What are you working on right now?
Just like trying to like pass better, and honestly trying to like get out of bottom position better. It's been a lot of like Rachel just choking me with me making mistakes, which has not been fun because I'm actually like trying to like get better and not just win. And so I'm like, I'm gonna try this position. It's like just loops my arm around. I'm like, just chokes me, and I'm tough and annoying. So like I'll get choked forever, and I'm like, ow, my face hurts now. I have this big piece of gi burn like under my chin.
Oh, that's the worst.
Because
man.
I was like, I'm working to how to get out of a specific thing she does very, very well, and I just fought it too long, and the gi like ripped the bottom of my beard hair like out and like my chin.
Oof.
Yeah. So tap a little earlier is what I learned this week for jiu-jitsu. But that's all I got.
Cool.
So as always in the show, I'm your host, Mange. I'm the co-host.
Emil.
And we are the Grappling Rewind. We'll see you on the mats. Whenever that is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google Plus.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.